Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the 3200 podcast. Hey, we got a special show today. We have a few little technical difficulties getting our guest on, but we're gonna get her on here shortly. But we got a good guest, Emily Ross, LPC and Beyond. Man, we're really gonna be talking about mental health with a big push on suicide awareness today. Man, it's gonna be a great. Hey, I need you to sit back, go ahead, hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll be right back after this.
Hey, the 3200, you know how we connect. 3200 Magnolia was the address. Beaumont, Texas, had to do it like that. Wanna welcome everybody to the podcast. Plenty stories that we gotta explore. From the views of husbands, fathers, entrepreneurs, baby fathers, and workers. I know this though for certain. You gon' laugh, have a good time till your side hurting. 3200, but you already know this. Couple of brothers hard working and focused. Intellectual, entertaining for show. 32 double O, let's go. 3200, but you already know this. Couple of brothers hard working and focused. Intellectual, entertaining for show. 32 double O, let's go. Hey, yeah, make sure that you turn it up. Get the talking, ain't no topic that we do not discuss. Yeah, everything and nothing at the same time. Good vibes, tune in, cause you know it's going down. 3200.
Right, all right. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Like I said, today we're talking about awareness. She's backstage, just trying to get having a few little problems here with the app we're using, but we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna get into it. There, we're gonna get into it as soon as she joins us. We'll hop up into it. We got Chris with us. Chris, how you feeling today, man?
I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. Been a long week. Looking forward to tomorrow.
What you got planned for the holiday?
Probably just relax. I don't know what we're gonna do for Sunday on Easter, but looking forward to relaxing tomorrow.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, yeah. We don't have much plans over here, Seth. Go check out a movie, uh, and then we see what it do.
Yeah, I might do that too tomorrow.
There goes our guest Kimberly here. How you doing?
I'm having trouble hearing you, but let's see. All right.
Oh, can you hear me?
Not really.
Oh, let me see. Turn my mic up some there. Hey, you hear me better now?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. How you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Hey, Mr. Terry's on. Hey, Mr. Terry. Like I said, we got Emily Ross. We're gonna let her introduce herself. Emily, tell us who you are, what you do, all the great stuff about you.
I'm Emily Ross. I'm a licensed professional counselor at New Path Therapy and Wellness. I'm also their director of community and culture. So I try to be their face in the community and try to see what the community's needs are, and we try to meet them.
Awesome, awesome. And you also are you got a couple other things going on. She's been a little bit modest today now. So you've got
Yep.
you've got a couple podcasts too where you talk about mental health, right?
Yeah. We have a Amber and I have Amber Long and I have a podcast, the Amber and M Show, where we try to deconstruct cultural scripts that are maladaptive and help people kind of reframe and make up their own stories.
Okay, okay. So please check those out. They're pretty dope. Check out all she got to do a live show on Wednesdays on her own page, and then she also have I think it's called Inspiration.
Oh yeah, my
I'm saying
Facebook
it.
page. Yeah, page just trying to
Yeah.
put some pop down into Southeast Texas. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Check them out. Those are pretty neat. Chris, and then Emily. Before we get started, man, whenever we do our mental health shows, we always want to do a quick check in with everybody. see how you're doing personally on a scale of 1 to 10, financially, mental health wise, and then spiritually, just how you're feeling, where you're at in life. So I'll start it off, give you an idea of what we do. Me, mentally, I'm probably at I want to say I'm probably like at a 6. 6, I've been kind of up and down lately, trying to balance. Balance has been a big thing for me. It's always been a big issue for me. But trying to find that balance, I probably at a 6. Financially, I'm probably about at an 8 financially. Um, got a pay raise at the job. We had to shut ours down last year, but we're looking at something else to invest. So future looks. And then spiritually, I say I'm probably about at a 7 right now too. Same thing with the mental. Just things are pulling each direction there. So that's where I'm at. Chris, where you at there?
I'll start off financially. Financially, I'll probably be about a 6 right now. Of course, I am in the middle of looking for another job and employment in another school district. So I will be getting that here pretty soon. Hopefully, that pay will be better, so it'll bring me up to about an 8 or a 9 financially. Mentally and spiritually. Mentally, I'm probably because I work with kids. I would say mentally, I'm about at about a 6 as well, because that's kind of up and down. You never know what you're gonna get with kids from a day to day basis. Uh, Spiritually, about a good 7. So I try to do some kind of prayer or meditation or reading on a daily basis. So that's why I am mentally.
Cool. What about you, Em?
Ah, man. All right. Financially, y'all are doing way better than me. I feel like I'm like a 3. It's like
Okay.
tax season.
Oh
I
yeah.
volunteer work, so my finances aren't fabulous. Spiritually, I feel like I'm at an 8 or a 9. I feel like I've got a good spiritual life going on, and I think mentally I'm probably at an 8 too. I like doing this stuff at Energy.
Okay. All right. Let's talk. Let's talk, man. A big thing for us is we do these mental health episodes every now and then. Um, I think men don't talk about it enough. I think we kind of keep to ourselves, or we try to appear strong and kind of hold on to a lot of that stuff. I wanted to do this episode uh, last year when Twitch had committed suicide. I wanted to do it then, but I think we're in between seasons at the time, so we weren't doing episodes at that time. So I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to bring it back. One thing about Twitch's suicide that kind of got me, it was like everybody was surprised about, they said he had everything together and he had this great, fantastic job on Ellen's show. He was making good money, had a happy family, and everything seemed good. And everybody's still trying to figure out like why did it happen? And for me, I didn't even think about it. I just like, okay, I understand how everything can look good on the outside, but on the inside, he was, inside, you're still dealing with a lot on the there. So I think that's one thing I wanted to kind of ask him. Um, what did you think? I heard a rapper on a podcast earlier this week, and he was talking about how men suffer in silence. How we hold everything back. Is that something you see a lot in dealing with cases?
I do, and it ends up being really dangerous suicide when it comes to suicide, because when men attempt suicide, they tend to pick very lethal means, and so when they attempt, they usually complete suicide. So they attempt at a lower rate than women do, but they tend to use very lethal means, so they tend to die. And I know you were on a podcast with Amber and I, and we talked about the stigma around men and how, y'all are raised up to be strong, and that part of being strong is not sharing when you're overwhelmed or when your emotions are getting intense. So I think it ends up being really dangerous for you.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's a good show. Got my other brother Jonathan, the bad guy. He's on there too. There, John. Welcome, Jay.
Hey, what's going on? I'm trying to find me a parking spot.
uh, so, what is because I don't know how we get past that. How we get past that as men? How we get past that area where we actually let out our emotions? Or how we talk? Is there a reason why you think men have? Because we don't see. I just started seeing a therapist like late last year. It's like we don't go out and see that. Is something that you see why, or do you know why we don't seek out help? I guess.
I mean, I think you would know better than me, right? Because you're why don't you, right? Like, no, I think you could reframe courage to be being vulnerable with your feelings to start those conversations. I think stuff like you're doing tonight, that's a huge step in the right direction. You just told everybody you're going to therapy. Like, you're somebody who people in the community admire, and you're saying, like, you're having these conversations. I think that's what's going to change it.
Is there like a huge gap between? Because I looked up the stats, and I was surprised at the stats about. I thought America might be like the top country with suicide rates. I think we're like number 6 or whatever in line. But I couldn't find anything on the gap for America. Is there a huge gap, or what is the gap between men and women when it comes to suicide?
Um, I'm looking at the stat. Biggest stat that they put out is that men die 3.9 or 4 times more often than females. So that's the gap. White men in our age bracket and in the middle age bracket are the most at risk. It goes up more if they're veterans. But the big statistic that they put out is that men die more often.
All right, Chris, Jonathan, y'all got a question?
Oh, I don't even know what you guys enact, so I don't want to repeat myself.
Oh no, you good. Just go ahead, man. We just talked about man suffering in silence. There, men suffering in silence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I guess my question, well, the first question would be, where do you think suicidal thoughts come from? Because like I had a friend, very close friend. We're veterans, so I would try to keep in contact with him, but I mean, had 2 sons, wife, just a funny dude, and always brought joy when we were around. And I get the call from his wife that he had committed suicide, and so I'm like, where did those thoughts come from? Because I know a lot of my guys, we started a group after we learned that information. A lot of my guys, even as myself, have had suicidal thoughts. Where do you think that come from?
I mean, suicidal thoughts, the thoughts are really very common. It's something like 7 million people a day think about suicide. The thoughts start out as what we call passive suicidal ideation. It's like, these feelings are so intense and I don't see an end to them. And so if I died, I wouldn't mind, or my family might be better off. And what happens is, when we don't talk about them at that point, they become insidious and they get persistent and louder. And then our brain starts thinking of a plan and how we might do it. And I really think that when you have those fleeting thoughts at first, if you start talking about it to somebody else, they just lose their power, right? But when we add shame and guilt to it, and we can't tell anybody because we think we're the only people thinking like that, that's when they get real dangerous. I think a lot of times, as like, these intense emotions are overwhelming. I really think they start like that.
Yeah. I won't even lie there. Like December. I don't even know what was going on with me. Not December. It's like October last year, man. I was dealing with some stuff. I wasn't even really dealing with nothing in life. I think it was my medication or something I was taking. But but all of a sudden I just had thoughts came out of nowhere. Like life was good. Like I've been through a lot. I struggled with a lot. But at the moment, like life was going good. Then all of a sudden, like some thoughts just snuck in my head. I'm like, where is this even coming from? So like and I was just kind of thinking about that, like, is there any like true signs of like depression or suicidal? Is there something we should be looking out for? Because
I mean,
none of my friends would have even thought, because everything was, on the outside, everything was looking great for me, but in my mind, I was like, I couldn't figure it out.
think about how you started the conversation. Everything was going good. He had a ton of money and a nice family. Like it's not everything can be going great and you still get them. And I think when that happens, we end up feeling so bad, right? Like what's wrong with me that I have everything I ever wanted and I still feel like I want to die. And I think that keeps us quiet, right? It can be as complicated and as simple as the serotonin in your brain is just not at the right level. And you're saying it was in the winter. That happens in the winter, right? It might just be that. And I really try to empower people in therapy. Like, you don't have to look around your life and find something that makes it make sense to you that you're sad. Like, you don't have to have gone through something hard right then. It can be as complicated and as simple as the chemicals in your brain are telling you that you're sad.
Now, I did have a question. My question was because we've had a lot of mass shootings and stuff like that. Do you think people attempt suicide to prove something or to get sympathy or something like that?
I don't. I don't think that. And I don't think it's selfish. I shudder when people say that. I think it's a desperate act by people who are so profoundly sad. And if you've ever been depressed, the words hopeless and helpless take on a whole new meaning. Like, it's so, like, to feel like it's going to be like that forever is overwhelming. And I think a lot of the times people feel like they're doing something good for their family because they feel like a burden or they feel like, I don't, and if people do it for attention, that's a problem too. Like, what's going on that's a thing, right? So even if it is just for that, which I don't really see that much, I've never seen that, but even if it was that, let's help them, because if that's a choice that they can, if they're at that choice, then I still feel like it's bad.
Yeah, kind of.
Now,
Oh, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but I think Jonathan kind of asked part of the question. I was gonna ask something similar. With me being an educator, working with kids every day, and with the shootings that we've seen here recently, here in the past month or so at the schools, my question would kind of be: do you think there's some kind of trauma that these shooters are kind of dealing with and don't know how to reach out to get help that may cause them to shoot up these schools and then commit suicide? Or
I don't know. I think hurting other people and hurting yourself are kind of two different, like, they're on two different continuums, hurting other people like that to me is sometimes a defect of the soul, which isn't something mental health providers can help with. Hurting yourself is so different for me. I do think that kids in this generation are really traumatized by all the violence that happens at school, and I think it makes it really difficult for them and overwhelms them. Yeah.
So and just kind of getting on there. I mean, it's a little off subject, off topic, but it's the same thing. Like as far as mental with the kids and dealing with all that. Like we had our daughters on the episode. We had our children on the episode last week, and that was like the first question because it's right after the Nashville shooting. Like, how are y'all coming? How are y'all going to school? What kind of thoughts are in your head? Are y'all worried about this? And I think most of them, for the most part, they all said, like, it's something that's in the back of their mind when they're at school that, hey, this can happen. And just I think my daughter, early in the school, my daughter and my son, they had a couple threats at their school where they had to evacuate and pull them out of school and stuff. And they were so traumatized just off of that on that note, and another, we'll say uh special prayers again to all the children in Nashville, the 6 people who lost their life in Nashville. But uh as far as their mentality and the mentality of children growing up nowadays, and that uh somebody said they might have PTSD from all of the trauma and seeing it on there. Are you seeing a difference in the children now?
I mean,
Uh
I
in
don't
the
see my um so like my I just know anecdotally from my own kids how much that impacts them, like how scared they get. My daughter struggles with PTSD from Harvey. But when they've had lockdowns, she really has a very bad reaction to that because they always think it's real, right? Which is good because you want them to be prepared if something's happening, right? And I get caught up in this thing. Trauma responses are your amygdala trying to save your life, right? Like you go into fight or flight, and sometimes that does save your life. So we don't want to train the kids not to have that response because if they're ever in this situation, we want them to live, right? So we want that part of their brain to work. So I get in this, I don't know, like this catch 22. Do I teach them how to get their brain to stand down or don't I? Because it might be dangerous if I do that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna be my next question. Like, as parents, like, what type of conversations should we be having with them,
Yeah.
uh, and get their minds prepared for this?
I think the important part is to have conversations with them about it. Give them a safe place where they can talk about it and they can verbalize that they're afraid. I'm big on mental health days. Like after that lockdown, my daughter wanted to stay home and I let her. I didn't think it was worth sending her scared like that, right? So like I picked her mental health and I let her just stay home and I gave her a venue to talk about it and to be scared. And I tried my best to like that's normal. It is reasonable that you're afraid like that. There's parts of life that are super scary and I'm sorry. And I wish I could promise you to protect you or to make it better. And I can't, but I'll sit here with you about it.
Yeah, because
And
that
earlier I asked a question. Jonathan's on here. Chris is on here too. Uh, oh, Earlier I asked a
not going.
question. And now that I got Chris and Jonathan both on here, Em threw it back on me there. She said, I was asking about suffering in silence and why men suffer in silence. I guess I want to throw it back on you two guys. With men suffering in silence and not letting everybody know what's going on in their mind. Like why do you guys think we do that?
I think part of the reason is I think men are afraid to open up. They're afraid to be vulnerable, or they're afraid, okay, hey, if I do open this up, say this, I'm afraid it may get used against me some kind of way, or somebody may look at you. But I would say we definitely, as men, just in general, definitely should have like a small circle or a small group of people to where you're regularly checking on each other mentally, saying, hey, hey, are you okay? Or somebody is like, hey, is everything all right? You may say, yeah, but yeah, it's really not. I think some things need to actually be, you need to dive into more conversation, actually open up together. I think that's why we're not really open up to each other a lot of times. Say what's going on mentally. Like, hey, I'm struggling in this area. I just need some support. I would say if we were able to do that, I think we'll be able to have better conversations. And I'm not gonna say it may decrease, suicidal thoughts if somebody's having that. But I think it'll have that. At least you'll have that support. You'll have a support group with you, let you know, hey, we got your back through this.
Yeah, I think it goes from not seeing it. I never seen that when I was growing up. My daddy, I didn't see weakness in my dad, and I didn't see my dad talk about anything, to show weakness. So it was like I was trained not to even express, any type of, weakness. So you just harbor it in, and I mean, yeah, you get frustrated and angered, and you get it's to me. I just didn't see it as masculine to go to somebody for help when it comes to emotional wise, because I didn't see it growing up. I mean, that's all it is. You just try to laugh it off, or just walk off for a little bit, try to cool your head, and come back. So I think that was my thing. I didn't really see, dad, uncles, grandpas, none of that. They probably were talking to each other, but I didn't see it. So, I only do what I see. So, you know,
Yep. Hey, we want to welcome Leo to the show, even though he's 25 minutes late. There, we give you it's coming out your paycheck. There, it's coming out your paycheck.
Go ahead, take it out.
Now, I want to pick your mind on this, Leo, because you come in at a good time. That we're just talking about men suffering in silence. Not sharing when things are getting tough, or not sharing when their mental is off a little bit there. So we was trying to figure out where that come from, and why it happens there. So I asked Chris and nothing, man. So just want to pick your mind. What do you think? Where did that come from? Why don't we share?
I think I have to say what Jonathan said was pretty much on point. Um, I think as men, old school men, I don't know about the newer generation, younger generation, but old school men, they're old school. We're not supposed to have feelings. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you ain't supposed to cry. You know what I mean? So you was raised in that atmosphere and everything else like that. So I think that's where it came from. On a mix on top of that, with you're not supposed to cry. If you go into the religious side, you're the head of the household. You know what I mean? You gotta be strong. Um, all type of religious thing. You know, you gotta pray it off. Some of that type of stuff too gels in. So it's a lot of things that combine. I think the one time when it hit for me, it wasn't not being able to talk. I think it was kind of like being at the beach and you're in the water. And you playing and chilling in the water, the next thing you know, you way out farther than what you thought you was. So I think when it crept up on me, one of the times I know before, that's where I was. I was kind of like in the middle of the water, and I was like, when the world did I get here? So sometimes I think it happens to people like that, whether it's male or female. But I know a lot of old school teaching. Um, that was the issue with the male persona. What you're supposed to be, strong head of the household, the rock, and you know,
the macho man.
yeah, yeah. So I think that was it. People didn't discuss their feelings. If they discussed feelings, they were soft, and nobody wanted to be soft.
Yeah. And then I think as a husband, sometimes it'd be like I don't want my wife to think that I'm failing her, and I want my kids to think that I'm failing them. If I don't have everything under control, if I'm not Superman, you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah,
I think it goes to the perception of carrying a load, how you have to carry that load, how you was taught to carry a load, and what you might have picked up from your friends, and like you say, your father and your uncles and stuff like that. How the perception of carrying a load, because that's what I was dealing with a lot of times. I'd be struggling and wouldn't ask for anything. I just had to I have to figure it out. You just got to figure it out, and that goes with the old school teaching.
yeah.
That and like expressing your emotions, it's a skill, right? And if nobody's modeled to you how to do it, and you're not practicing it, then you kind of lose the skill or it will atrophy, right? So if you have nobody modeling it to you, and then you don't have a way to practice.
Oh, yep. I think we
I
lost
think I lost.
okay. I think we lost your sound for a second there.
Did you hear what I said about? No.
No, it
Uh,
was going in.
I was saying expressing your emotions is a skill. So if you didn't learn it growing up, like nobody modeled to you how to do it, you don't just know how to do it, right? So it takes practice, and it's a skill. So if you stop practicing it, then it's going to go away. I love how you intro the show with checking in about specific things, because that helps people learn how to talk about stuff, right? You say, how are you doing financially, spiritually, and emotionally? That's a great way to check in when you're all learning how to express your emotions, right? Because if you just like, how you feeling, I don't know about what, there's so much that I could be feeling, right? So I loved how you did that. And I think if everybody who's watching the show picks an accountability partner and just does that check-in from here on out, I think that'd make a huge difference.
Yeah. Now you got me thinking now, because you said as long as we uh if you're not shown a way of expressing emotions, like Faith Love said it too there. You said the same thing she said there. If you're not shown how to express your feelings in a healthy way, then you know it's hard to express them. So I guess that'd be the next question for everyone there. Like, are we showing our kids, the people under, are we stopping the generational thing of men not showing each other how to express their feelings? Are we showing our kids how to express themselves? I could tell. I started off. I know. I don't think I'm doing it. I don't think I'm doing it. I know my wife is great at communicating and doing the stuff. I'm more like just like a dad showed us. Like, hey, shut up and color. You know. So I think I could do. I know for sure I could do better on that part. Because I don't think they see me. Even when um, we lost our grandmother. You know, and I did a horrible job. Just kind of thinking back at that moment, I did a horrible job expressing my feelings, because I got the phone call from my sister saying that grandma had passed away. Come on over to the house, and I was just like yelling at the kids. I was like, "Hey, get your clothes on, get in the car, let's go." And they're like, "What's going on? What's going on?" I'm like, "Just get in the car." And and I handled, just looking back at it, like I handled that like in the worst moment. I didn't kind of talk to them, let them know what was going on, see how they was feeling. I could have did way better at that, but I was just emotionally distraught with the whole situation. But I don't know. I don't think my dad ever really showed us that way. Even when at funerals or whatever, he just, hey, keep your chin up, keep your head up, don't cry or whatever. So I know I could do better on that part. What about y'all?
I think it's funny. I think their generation is teaching us as far as how to be. A lot of times, a lot of things that I've seen is their generation that's teaching us. It's like, I'm going to have a mental health day. Nobody thought about that in our generation. You going to work, I mean, but their generation come around and it's like, nah, I'm taking a day off. I need a mental health day. So I think their generation is one that's actually teaching our generations how to express your feelings, because we've never learned or never thought about it. You know what I mean? Um, I have to agree with you. I think I did the same thing at the funeral. One of my sons, it was just all it was if he would have did it earlier, like when I told him to do it, it would have been fine, but he didn't. So he waited to the last minute and things didn't come out right. And it was something small, it was just a shirt. But I was just, you know, I was the same way. I think maybe that was a trait we had. It was more angry because you didn't have on the shirt. You didn't have the right shirt. And that's all it was. You look at it now like that was pretty dumb. And I remember my wife coming up, she was like, calm down, let's go over here. I know you're upset and everything else. Um, so yeah, but I think their generation is teaching us and showing us how to express ourselves, how to say what's on our mind. I feel like they're better at that.
I thought Chris was going because he had his hand up. Uh, well, hey, I'm the bad guy, so you know me. I suck at that. I know I suck. But I'm trying to improve. I am still taking the counseling. But I'm the same way. It's just it's a trait. I didn't even cry at my daughter's funeral or my grandmother. I never cried at a funeral, period. And it takes me a while, like literally, it took me probably months after my daughter passed to even cry. I don't know. It just takes me a while. But when I'm in the moment, I'm so busy just trying to get just past it. I just want to get through with it. I'm that guy. I'm not gonna miss work. I'm not gonna miss anything. You won't know anything's going on in my life because I'm gonna keep it trapped in a box, and then I'll get to that whenever I feel like the time is right. But yeah, I don't handle that real well at all. I think I'm doing a little better, but I know I deal with a lot of anger issues, and I like stuff certain ways, and I know that's what always gets me going.
Oh, well, since I don't have any kids, uh, I can't answer that part of the question. But I remember I would say I'm sort of like Jonathan when it comes to like death or whatever. I kind of hold it in. Like I'll have my times, like, and I'll say next to our grandmother's death, it wasn't. And I just recently lost my other grandmother in November. I kind of that one there kind of hit me, but I'd say the hardest death so far was my dad's. And I remember because me and my dad didn't have. It came to a point in my life, more like my adult life. We didn't have like the best relationship because of he didn't do certain things, and I kind of felt resentment towards that, and it still kind of gets to me to this day a little bit. Where the day he died, that morning I went to go see him, and he was sleeping. And I was like, well, I'm gonna sit there for a little bit. I don't really want to wake him up. So I sat there for a few minutes, got up, left, and about 8:30 that night, our cousin had called us. They called me and told me that he had died, and so we all went to the hospice and waited till the funeral. I'm gonna pick him up. And so I remember my mom. She was like, "Hey, are you gonna be okay? Staying at home and stuff." I said, "Yeah, I'll be fine." So it didn't really hit me until the next day. It's like I was started to, because at the time I was in my first year teaching too. So I'm in my first year teaching, trying to get fully certified, working on a master's degree, coaching for sports. And at the time of his death, when that happens, like everything started to fall apart. And me, I'm one now. I'm gonna take a mental day just one day once every year. But at that time, with all that going on and trying to get stuff ready for his services, I had to take like 4 of my days, and we only get like 5 local days a year. So I had to use most of my days toward that. And so my thing was, okay, hey, just stop, breathe, get things in order, just prioritize, most important and least important. And from that death, I've gotten better with it mentally. So okay, just whatever happens is a part of life. Just slow down, stop rushing, because I like to get stuff done in order as well. And I was just running around trying to avoid it when I couldn't. So it just all fell apart one day, and I was like, hey, and I just felt like a relief, and I was like, okay, my dad, hey, he had a great life. He did this, did that, I forgave him, and he's gone, but I can just just continue to make him proud as if he was still here. So I've gotten better with mentally with that death.
Yeah, because I've even looked like at funerals. I'll be looking around and I feel bad because I'm not crying, and I'm like, why am I not crying?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm heartless a lot of times.
I
I'm like,
always find something to laugh at a funeral. Like, I don't know why, but I always, every funeral I go to, I normally find something that's funny. And so, Jonathan, by the way, you did a wonderful job singing at my dad's funeral. I don't think I ever had a chance to thank you for that. That was some great singing.
Isaac, you did a horrible job at Grandma Lou funeral. I was doing just fine, holding all my emotions in until you got up there and started talking, and then you made me cry. I was doing good, man. Never cried at a funeral. I was undefeated when I come to funerals. And then you gonna just bust out with your little speech, and then it's like,
He had everybody crying after that.
yeah, you the worst.
So, real quick, man, want to make sure because let me see, slide that here at the string. Want to make sure everybody, we're talking about suicide here. I want to make sure that everybody got the as the new number here, man. I didn't know. You might have to let me know, Emily, when they changed it there. But the new suicide and crisis line, it's 988 for fast call. It used to be the 800 number, but they made it. I guess the government they signed a thing, and all you have to do is press 988 if you just want to talk to somebody. And we urge everybody, don't wait till it's too late. We talked about having those suicide thoughts, and I forgot the number that M said it was, but it's like 7 million, I believe, is what the number.
It's something like
So 7 million people right now have some suicidal thoughts on their mind, and they're not sharing it. They're suffering in silence, like we were talking about earlier. Call this number. Use this number 988. There's somebody on the other line all day, every day, there to help talk you through whatever it is you're going through. Leo, you had a question?
Yeah, I came in a little late. Have you guys already talked about some of the signs? Because like, in the military, we once a year we get briefed because suicide is so high in the military. So once a year we get briefed about suicides, and I remember one of the main things that you look out for is a change in behavior. And it's so crazy. I had a troop, and she was real cool, real good, real good, real nice, very professional, hardworking. But she didn't wear makeup like that. You know what I mean? She was more natural, stuff like that. Then one day she came in made up, and I was like, I pulled it to the side, and I was like, "Hey, you okay?" Because that's one of the main signs they say. Like when a person goes from one extreme to the other, usually that means that. So I was like, "You okay?" And she was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine." I was like, "I'm here if you need me, you need somebody to talk to and stuff like that." Um, she was young and was married young, and husband was young. So they was having marital issues and a couple of other things. And so I called a couple of the other sergeants, and I was like, "Hey, y'all know this so and so?" And it was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I already talked to her and asked her." And we went through the day and we asked her. And then that night when she got home, she tried to, but I'm very thankful that she failed, but she tried to. And it was kind of like, you was like, oh man, because like when they brief it like, oh, you talk to the person, and then the person will be like, yeah, I do. It's always a good outcome when they have these briefings, but they never have the briefing where it turns into a bad outcome, even though you tried, you know. So that's why I was asking. I guess have we already talked about some of the signs that people can be aware of when somebody is heading down that path?
I guess, what are some signs? What are some things we should be looking out for?
I mean, I really love the example you use because like somebody put makeup on, like they're putting in some effort into how they're looking. And so it's like, you might think that means they're doing well and they're not. So sudden changes in behavior, really, and it's not just they seem sad or they're crying. Sometimes it's they're putting more effort in. Like if they're always showing up in joggers and all of a sudden they're dressing up, ask about that. But sudden changes in behavior, getting away, um, talking like they're not going to be in the future, making plans like that. If somebody all of a sudden is like, "Hey, this is what I want done if I ever pass away," that's a red flag. The thing that I really want to encourage is to ask somebody bluntly, just, "Hey, have you been thinking about hurting yourself?" Literally ask it just like that. Because if you just open the conversation like that, it'll invite them to be able to be that honest with you. And I want to say out loud, like, do y'all know what to do if you have I said the thoughts are really common, but if the thoughts are persistent and you think you might act on them, do you know what to do?
No, not at all. I know I don't.
Nah.
You can go to the nearest emergency room or urgent care and walk up to the triage where you'd say like, "Oh, I think I broke my arm." Go up there and say, "I'm having really dangerous thoughts and I need some help." And they will take it from there. So if you're past the point that you can call 988 and feel like you'll be safe, just go ahead and go to the ER.
What about I guess dealing with the children. I've known several people who've lost their kids to suicide, and then uh, even myself. We had my daughter. She was dealing with some bullying at school, and she had wrote a note or whatever, and uh, she had wrote a note in a journal, just talking or whatever, and really the conversation. Just looking back, like the conversation I had with her probably was not the best conversation. Like, how do we, as fathers, as mothers, how do we talk to our kids about this when there's a concern?
I think it's important to just normalize being able to talk about it. Try not to freak out. I know that's super scary. I'll share one of my children was very suicidal. We would do an arm's distance rule. Like she had to be within my arm's reach until those thoughts passed. Because sometimes they will just pass. When you're allowed to talk about them and you don't have to be ashamed or scared or humiliated that you're having them, sometimes they just pass, especially for teens, right? Remember how hard being a teenager was and everything was very intense and hurt a lot, right? So, and we just give them a space to talk about it. I think it's great to get kids into therapy, especially that preteen adolescent phase. That's a tough time in life, even when things are going great, right? Like it's just a hard transition. So it's never a bad idea to connect to therapy for children or for adults. But I think the important part for all of us, men, women, kids, adults, is to be able to have conversations about them. We take so much power away from the thoughts when we're just communicating with each other about it.
All right, we'll go to comments real quick. We haven't really been reading them out. Mr. Terry, he said because he deal with death every day, it started to take a toll on him. So now I always take just an hour to center myself. Kaylin, she said sometimes they would change behaviors or they would say they are fine, even though they are not. I think that's the one thing that we need to kind of get past is just not accepting I'm okay, I'm fine, and ask the next question or keep moving on with the conversation.
That's where how you comes into place. Like ask them something specific, like how are you doing in your career, how are you doing at school, how are you doing financially, how are you doing spiritually. If you get real specific, it opens up a different kind of conversation. You deepen the conversation.
Leo, you had another, or one of y'all had another one?
Oh yeah, I got a question.
Oh.
Here, this is 2 years ago. It was my first year teaching, and it's just a general question. I had a coworker at the time. This may have been a week or two before school had started that year. I had a coworker. He was a history teacher. He's actually one of my former teachers as a student at the school that I work at. And it was that time during COVID year, and where the virtual learning had kind of started up in different around the state, around the nation, and it was some different things that he kind of didn't understand as far as technology wise. And there's a group of us who was like, hey, we'll come help you, just to let us know. And we would throughout the day we'd go check on him and just to see, how he was doing and if he needed any help. And I think we came back from lunch. Me and my coworker, my other uh coworker that taught PE with me on the boys' side, we were supposed to go check in on him and we didn't do it. And so the next morning we got into work, and maybe I want to say about 9 o'clock in the morning, uh his wife had called school. He'd actually killed himself early that morning. And so my question is, because we had to do some kind of training every year on suicide and different things like that. Other than like a computer training based training, what are like some other type of trainings maybe that we could get as professionals and educators that's like on the job training that kind of maybe help out with that?
Mental health first aid top is a training, and they have different tracks for it. So they could do one specifically for veterans, and they have one for like community members that train you on how to respond and how to see signs and things like that. And it's free. They'll come out to a school and do it.
Okay.
All right.
I think I want to mention though is whenever you know somebody who completes suicide, it puts you at higher risk. Sometimes you'll see like pockets of people all complete suicide that knew each other. So if your child knows somebody who completed suicide, or your coworkers after that incident, everybody around that person is now at increased risk. So like extra check on each other, make sure you're checking in.
Hey, we want to thank Emily again for joining us on the show, man. We want to put some information out there uh, with how you can get in touch with Emily there. She's at New Path Therapy and Wellness here in Beaumont, Texas. Um, there's a website. Website is travelnewpath.com. Great website. Go on there to get your information. Uh, just want to thank you again. I'll leave. I'll let us all, start. I guess I'll start off then Leo, and then we'll end it with Emily. Just closing remarks. I think just coming off this show, Leo talked about the military. I know most of us are veterans. The one thing that I remember seeing at Alston Air Force Base, most of the bases had on the front of the base they had DUIs. And when is the last day you had a DUI on your base? And Alston was the only base that I ever seen that said the last suicide. And I was just like, wow, you're having that many suicides. So it's real out there. It's real out there. Everybody's struggling with something. I would say for me, just on the show and doing the show, it's just the growth and learning that I could do better. I can do better to help my kids. I can do better to help myself and my family do better. It's just recognizing that, and then recognizing your friends. And like Chris and them was saying earlier, just checking in with your friends and checking in with your buddies to make sure they're good. So that's what I encourage everyone to do. Check in with somebody, man. You never know what somebody's going through. It's a holiday weekend. Uh, so many people lost a lot of people here the last 2-3 years here. So check on each other, care for each other, and do better with each other. Uh, Leo, final words.
Uh, I have to agree. I think the main thing is check on each other. Like the doctor said, have those real conversations. Um, it's normal, and I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's the thing where sometimes people get scared to have those conversations with other people. It's like, well, they're going to look at me a certain way, but to have those thoughts is something that's normal. and it's okay to talk about it, and you want to talk about it and get it out before something happens. Be especially with all these, not only with the suicides that's going on, with the homicides that's going on. Be especially mindful of your friends and family, because sometimes people get down when those things happen out there. So be real, open the conversation, have a conversation with your kids or whoever else, whoever you love. Have that conversation. Be able to talk to them about it. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Leo. Chris.
I'd say just if you're ever having a moment or feeling suicidal or depressed, I say, man, just find you a accountability partner and just reach out and hey, check up on them and say, hey, I'm feeling like this, and just try to get help. Even to the adults, you can call the hotline number. You can call pastor, whoever. Just find you somebody that you can talk to in that moment. That's what I have.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, just keep the lines of communication open. I know when I was at the schools, me and my buddy, we did security, and I was over transportation. So we had more. We could talk more to the kids. So if we would see kids in the corners eating lunch by themselves, we would make it our duty to talk to them every day, to open them up. By the end of the school year, they'll be around all the other kids and talking and having a good time. So we just got to keep ourselves available to talk to people, but also keep the lines for yourselves open to talk as well. That's all I got.
All right. And then Emily, final words.
And your model into the community, how to be brave and talk about your feelings and vulnerable things, and how you're going to change and do it different yourselves. I think that's going to be really influential to the people watching and to the people in the community. And I really commend y'all for being brave enough to do that and for talking about the hard things. I want to challenge people to try this accountability thing where they ask specific questions. I loved how you did it. How are you financially? How are you spiritually? And how are you mentally today? Find a buddy and just do that every day. Tell them your feelings and ask them about theirs. Just practice it.
All right. Thanks once again. If we want to get in touch with you or somebody's wanting to talk with you, how do they reach you?
They can find me on Facebook, send me a message on Facebook. They can go to travelanewpath.com and bios for all the different therapists there. They can email me at New Path.
All right. Thanks again for joining the show. Everybody who was on, man, thank y'all for lighting up the comments tonight, man. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thank y'all again for joining. We'll see you all next week.
3200, but you already know this. Couple of brothers hard working and focused. Intellectual, entertaining for show. 32 double.